June 25th, 1988. Munich, West Germany. 72,000 people inside the Olympiastadion. At the final whistle, for the first and still only time in their history, the Netherlands were champions of Europe. It had taken pain, it had taken heartbreak, and it had taken one of the greatest goals ever scored in the history of football. This is the story of how the Dutch finally did it. For over a decade, Dutch football carried a beautiful, painful ghost. In the 1970s, Johan Cruyff and the pioneers of total football mesmerized the world, only to fall short in consecutive World Cup finals in 1974 and 1978. Then came the sudden decline. The national team failed to qualify for the 1982 World Cup and the 1984 European Championship, leaving a proud nation stranded in footballing exile. But by the summer of 1988, the architect of their golden era, Rinus Michels, was back on the bench. He possessed a new, formidable core. Ruud Gullit and Marco van Basten, arriving from AC Milan, alongside Frank Rijkaard, Ronald Koeman, and goalkeeper Hans van Breukelen. Michels organized them in a fluid 4-4-2 formation. Koeman initiated play from his defensive position, Rijkaard anchored the midfield, and Gullit and Van Basten rotated with dangerous attacking fluidity. They had the talent, but the historical burden remained heavy. As the tournament opened in West Germany on June 10, 1988, one question consumed the country. Could this brilliant generation at last finish what the legends of the past had left undone? On June 12th, in the opening match in Cologne, the nightmare returned. Facing the Soviet Union, the Dutch dominated possession but failed to convert their chances. Just before halftime, in the 45th minute, Soviet midfielder Vasil Rats struck a powerful shot past Hans van Breukelen. The match ended 1-0. Suddenly, the Netherlands faced immediate elimination. They had to win both remaining group matches to survive. The pressure was intense as they traveled to Dusseldorf on June 15th to face England. Rinus Michels made a decisive change, starting a fully fit Marco van Basten. England's goalkeeper, Peter Shilton, was celebrating his 100th international cap. But the afternoon belonged to the Dutch striker. In the 44th minute, Van Basten turned his defender inside the penalty box with a brilliant fluid movement and slotted the ball home. England equalized in the second half, but the Dutch response was devastating. Van Basten combined with Ruud Gullit, using his sharp mobility to drag the English defenders out of position. He scored twice more in the 71st and 75th minutes to complete a stunning hat trick, sealing a 3-1 victory and keeping Dutch hopes alive. Yet the toughest test remained on June 18th against a resilient Republic of Ireland. A draw would send the Irish through and eliminate the Netherlands. For 83 minutes, the Dutch struggled to break down the Irish defense. In the 84th minute, a desperate shot from Gerald Vandenberg flew toward the penalty area. Substitute Wim Kieft leaped, meeting the ball with a looping header that took a strange deflection off the turf and spun into the far corner of the net. It was a chaotic, fortunate escape. The Netherlands had survived the group stage, but only just. On June 21, 1988, the Volkspark Stadion in Hamburg hosted a match that carried the weight of 14 years of unresolved Dutch pain. This was a reckoning with West Germany, the nation that had broken Dutch hearts in the 1974 World Cup final. The match erupted in the second half. West Germany won a penalty, and Lothar Matthaus struck it past Hans van Breukelen to give the hosts the lead. The familiar ghost of near misses threatened to consume the Netherlands once more. But Rinus Michels had built a resilient side. They pushed forward using rapid transitions to exploit spaces in the German defense. In the 87th minute, Marco van Basten was brought down in the penalty area. Ronald Koeman stepped up, calmly converting the spot kick to level the score. Just 1 minute later, Jan Wouters slid a pass into the penalty area. Sliding at full stretch, Van Basten hooked a low shot past goalkeeper Ike Immel into the far corner. The referee blew the final whistle moments later, unleashing a wave of pure ecstasy across the pitch and throughout the Netherlands. Players celebrated wildly on the turf. Supporters wept in the stands, and the ghosts of 1974 were finally laid to rest. On June 25, 1988, Munich's Olympiastadion filled with 62,770 spectators for the European Championship final. The Soviet Union returned as a formidable obstacle, not a mere backdrop for a Dutch coronation. Under coach Valery Lobanovsky, the Soviets had dismantled Italy 2-0 in the semifinals without allowing a single shot on target, and they had already defeated the Netherlands in the group stage. To break this disciplined side, Rinus Michels relied on his signature attacking blueprint, placing Ruud Gullit and Marco van Basten in advanced positions while Frank Rijkaard controlled the tempo from deep. As the teams walked out onto the pitch, an overwhelming sense of anticipation swept through the Dutch supporters. This was finally their moment. 32 minutes into the final, the breakthrough arrived. Adrie van Tichelen launched the move, and the ball found Arnold Muren on the left flank. Muren sent a high, floating cross deep into the Soviet penalty area. Ruud Gullit, wearing the captain's armband, anticipated the flight perfectly. He rose above the Soviet defenders, meeting the ball with a powerful downward header that flew past goalkeeper Rinat Dasayev. The net shook, and the scoreboard clicked to 1-0. Gullit sprinted toward the corner flag, his arms outstretched in pure ecstatic relief. For the captain, this was more than just the opening goal of a final. It was a moment that eased decades of national frustration, carrying the immense physical and emotional burden of those legendary Dutch teams that had fallen just short in the past. The door to history was finally open. In the 54th minute, the defining sequence of the entire tournament began with a clean defensive intervention. Adrie van Tichelen won the ball near his own penalty area to start the decisive move and quickly pushed it forward. He released Arnold Muren, who made a rapid, overlapping run down the left flank before sending a high, looping cross toward the far side of the penalty box. The ball seemed to hang in the air for an eternity, drifting toward an almost impossible shooting angle. Instead of taking a touch to control it, Marco van Basten adjusted his body shape, turned halfway toward the goal, and met the dropping ball with a spectacular right-footed volley. The strike soared over the head of Soviet goalkeeper Rinat Dasayev, who remained completely frozen on his line before dipping sharply under the crossbar into the far corner of the net. UEFA later declared it perhaps the most iconic goal in UEFA European Championship history. The sheer technical audacity of the finish stunned everyone in Munich. Ruud Gullit later remarked that if he hit it 1,000,000 times, he would never score that goal again. Van Basten himself watched in disbelief, later admitting, "I just don't know how I did it." The final whistle confirmed the 2-0 victory. Ruud Gullit stepped forward, becoming the first Dutch captain to lift a major international trophy. He later remarked that winning for your country makes you a hero for life, like living inside of a film. Across the Netherlands, cities like Amsterdam, Groningen, and Eindhoven erupted into a sea of pure orange. For a generation carrying the heavy weight of earlier final defeats in 1974 and 1978, this was the ultimate emotional release. Decades later, this historic afternoon in Munich remains the only major international title the Netherlands has ever won. Subscribe for more football history. Decades later, that golden summer remains the ultimate high-water mark of Dutch football. Every new generation of Oranje plays in the shadow of 1988, chasing a masterpiece that has never been repeated. It remains their beautiful, eternal standard. Subscribe for more legendary football stories.